Rockstar gang, what up, what up, what up? Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning to all you beautiful buttholes. Good morning to all you beautiful buttholes. Get a vibe going. Everybody in the chat, turn up in the chat. How you feeling this morning? Turn up in the chat. Let me know how you feeling this morning. Appreciate everyone in here. Nervous Joes. Does this team still have fans? When's the last time you saw someone randomly wearing a Panthers gear outside of the stadium in Charlotte? Well, Nervous, if you saw me out in public, I actually have worn, some gear outside in public. I've even worn this hat outside in public. So, but I understand where you're going with this. Today's going to be more of a vibe. It's going to be real. Like, I'm going to be real with you guys today. And I'm not really going to... I'm not going to yell. I feel like you ever made your parents mad to the point where they're like, I'm not going to yell, but you knew something bad was going to happen? Like, either you knew you were going to get your ass beat or you were going to get a talking to, but in a different tone. Right? Like, you knew you pissed them off that bad. That's how I'm going to be today. Like, I'm not going to yell, I'm not going to scream, but I'm just going to be as real as it comes today with you. So you just better be ready, because this is not going to be no BS podcast today. Today is not going to be no BS show. This is not going to be some optimism bullshit. This is going to be real as it fucking comes, ladies and gentlemen. And there's going to be some cursing. So, there's nothing else I can say. All right. I don't think Jaden misses a game. Sean, I don't know what you're talking about. The injury? He probably didn't injure it that bad. He probably has a bruised rib. They probably just wanted to keep him out the rest of the game so he didn't get, so it didn't get worse. I didn't see the final thing. The funny thing is I'm not even that upset anymore. Similar to the 2010 season, I'm just laughing, listening to the game, playing video games at the same time. I feel that, man. What's up, QP? I appreciate you joining, my friend. Welcome in, Martin C. Good morning to all of you guys. Forest City Kitty, what's up, man? Marco, Jaden gets hurt. We got cooked by Marcus Mariota, ladies and gentlemen. We got absolutely cooked by Marcus Mahomes. Marcus Mahomes last night. Oh, man. Yeah, we're going to do a quick recap. We're going to talk about David Tepper. We're going to talk about Dan Morgan. We're going to talk about Dave Canales. We're going to talk about Evero. We're going to talk about these players. We're going to talk about the trade deadline. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff this morning. I appreciate everyone in here joining the live stream. Do me a favor, smash that like button. Wherever you're watching, wherever you may be, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Twitch, the best way you can show your support to this channel is by liking and subscribing. The 4 things you see over here: like, comment, share, subscribe. Those 4 things are all free. It's a couple clicks away. But if you just want to like and subscribe, that's all I ask. Marcus Mariota looked great. Said nobody ever until he played the Panthers. Right, Kendall? He might have. Nervous. The way it was looking. Oh, I know some fantasy owners that had Jaden that were pissed. I mean, Nervous. Their OC is Cliff Kingsbury, former Cardinals head coach, former Texas Tech head coach. So, Daniels wrecked my fantasy. All right, let's get right into it. I appreciate everyone in here, man. I appreciate every single one of you guys in here. Appreciate it. All right, let's get right into it, man. Let's just do a quick recap, and then we'll get into some other stuff. Let's go into here. All right, so there we go. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this. There you go. So you can see it a little bit better. I mean, all right, 40-7, man. What do I got to say? Where do I start? Dude. I don't know where I even want to start with this. I really don't even know where I want to start with this. And I'm serious. Like, it's so bad that it's like I don't even know where to start. But let's just get right into it, man. Let's cut the crap. I mean, we got our asses handed to us. Simple, easy as that. It's a humiliating loss to the Washington Commanders. This wasn't just a bad game. It was a full-blown disaster. Andy Dalton might as well waved a white flag at the end of the second quarter because this team looked ready to pack it up, go home before halftime. And to me, the Panthers have now just hit rock bottom for sure this time. This is the final straw. This is the final piece of the puzzle that needed to happen. This team has finally hit truly rock bottom. And yet somehow they managed to make it look like it could get even worse. And I always told you guys, did I not fucking tell you that it's gonna get worse before it gets better? Did I not tell you guys that? Have I not said this multiple times on this show that it's gonna get worse before it gets better? Did I not tell you that? Like, a 33-point beatdown was the worst kind of embarrassment for any team, or even a team was used to losing as the Panthers. Again, we asked out of this team this year was to be competitive. And we can't even do fucking that. This is a Commanders team that's not exactly they're lighting it up on offense when Jaden Daniels on the field. They're a team that's putting up points for sure. But that defense of theirs wasn't based off of what we were reading, what we were hearing, what we were seeing. It's depleted, it's injured. They're allowing this amount of yards. They're allowing this type of passer rate. They're 29th in this category. They're 28 in this category. But they made Carolina look like they were playing in molasses. Like, the Panthers are dealing with a ton of injuries. Sure. You got a 36-year-old backup quarterback under center. Sure. But honestly, we're just throwing excuses at this point. We're just throwing excuses at this point. I mean, this team just flat out sucks, man. Nothing worked. The offense was garbage. The defense even worse. Dave Canales, our head coach, which, I mean, God bless the man, but I'm starting to have my doubts about him. But he goes, it's like this guy's learning on the job. But let's be real. He looks completely lost out there. This loss, like I said, is the cherry on top of a season that's already going down the drain. Andy Dalton right now looks like a walking disaster. Dalton's performance, let's look at it. Don't look at the numbers. 11 for 16, 93 yards, 5.8 average, 2 interceptions, sacked twice, a QBR. Ladies and gentlemen, look at that QBR rating. 3.2 and a rating of a 44. I mean, the game started off with him throwing a laughable bad screen pass that ended up being picked off by Washington's Dante Fowler, which I haven't heard that name in a very, very long time. That guy hasn't done a jack shit until yesterday. He practically gift wrapped that pick six to the Washington Commanders yesterday. Practically to the Washington Commanders yesterday without making them work for it. Then he followed it up with a 3-and-out. And if you thought it couldn't get worse, ladies and gentlemen, it did. He threw another interception the very next drive. And then by halftime, Dalton only had completed 4 passes for 39 yards and 2 picks. Let that sink in just a minute. Dalton completed just 4 passes for 39 yards and 2 picks. And that was by halftime. Just let that sink in, because to me, after I thought about it last night, this guy that Canales has been defending for 5 weeks, he played like a dude who's never seen a football before. He ended the day with a pathetic 93 yards, 2 interceptions, and 11 completions. For someone who's being in the NFL for over a decade, this was just sad. Didn't make it matter if it was Dalton or Bryce Young out there. They're both leading an offense that's completely broken right now. I think the offensive line is still good. I do believe in that. I do believe in our wide receivers. I do believe in our running back room. But when you don't have competent quarterback play, that's where it becomes an issue. Andy Dalton looked like he was seeing ghosts yesterday. But let's hear from the man himself. Let's hear what Andy Dalton had to say yesterday. Let's hear what he had to say.
Come out like that. Can't start the way we did. The turnovers hurt us, and we couldn't catch back up.
What happened if you could take us through the first 2 interceptions? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, the first one, I'm going to have to look at it, and probably should have just started it as a screen. And, I thought Miles was doing one thing, and it didn't end up working. It's my fault. I had the ball in my hand, and I should have.
QP88, I wish we could.
Second one was just miscommunication.
Oh, let me pause this for a second. Has the Panthers' lack of success made you less interested in watching other NFL games? I mean, Nervous, shout out to you for the $5 donation, but man, when you are a content creator like myself, I'm still going to be locked into the Panthers. I'm still going to be bringing y'all content. No matter win or lose, I'm going to be here. That's just how I am as a fan. But am I interested in other games? Yeah, absolutely. I'd rather watch Red Zone, to be honest with you. But, that's where we are. But shout out to you, man. I appreciate you donating to the channel. Everybody put W's in the chat or sound off in the chat with Nervish's name. W's to Nervish. I appreciate that, man. $5 donation goes a long way, man. I really do. So I appreciate that.
And his name is John C.
Appreciate that, Nervous. Thank you, sir. Big Moneybags Nervous is what his name should be, because he's donated to so much to this channel. I appreciate that. John, I don't know. I don't know the extent of his injury. I know it's got to be a rib injury. And if he was able to walk back out on that field and everybody kept saying he's okay, I'm assuming it's just a bruised rib. And they probably didn't want to keep him out there. So I'm assuming he'll probably play the next game. It just depends on how that rib heals, man. And the ribs they're one of the they take one of the longest times to heal up, from my understanding. I've never hurt a rib. I've never bruised a rib, so I don't know. What else can be said that hasn't been said in the last 6 years? I feel that. And anyone else wants to tell? Yeah. We definitely wanted to sell the team, Matt Chatter. All right, I just want to get to Ayuk tore his ACL. Yes, I'm going to the Bucks and Ravens game tonight. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, Al. Enjoy that, man. Enjoy that. I've never been this uninterested in the NFL. I think the entire fan base, they've been wanting him to sell it. Poor City Kitty. Is Canales a one and done coach? We'll talk more about that here shortly, Sean. We'll talk more about that here shortly. I don't disagree. Listen, you have every right to go watch whatever you want, man. Hopefully, maybe you'll get a couple clips in there if y'all just watch Red Zone. All right, let's finish this press conference up.
In what way?
There was miscommunication on the route.
Any more for Andy? Andy, how do you kind of take next steps after one like this?
Yeah. I mean, we really have to put this behind us, but also we have to go and look. We have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, all right, why do these games keep going like this? I think that's the biggest thing. For us, there's so many little details that we're going to go back and look at, and we're going to say we have to have certain things happen. We have to make sure that we have a good understanding of everything that we're doing. And when you don't, it turns out like it did today. And so I think we've got to be honest and real, and everybody has to do it. And I'm talking to myself too. So we've got to make sure that when we come out on Sundays, we have to perform. And we have to know all the ins and outs of everything that we're doing, and go out there and do our job.
Andy, were they showing you anything defensively that took you by surprise or not?
No, this was us. I mean, we hurt ourselves early. I hurt the team early with the turnovers, and we couldn't recover.
Andy, when you say understanding what we're doing, can you elaborate on that? Are you talking about game plan? Are you talking about effort?
No, I mean, we're giving effort. It's just all the little details that go into playing this game. We got to make sure that we're clear on everything.
First one looked like maybe on you. Second one could have been miscommunication with sleeper. What was it?
Yeah, the first one, I go back, I would throw it in the ground, and the second one, miscommunications. At the end of the day, I shouldn't turn the ball loose, and I hurt us.
Andy, is there any positives that you take from the offense?
No, not today.
Yeah. He's fucking pissed. He was like, was there any positives to take away from today? He was like, no, not at all. I mean, and Dalton said there was a miscommunication on the route. And then he said the first one he should have just thrown in the dirt. So he took responsibility for the one. The other one, it sounds like to me, there was miscommunication on the route. So, I mean, hey, man, like, let's not kid ourselves. We all knew that this Andy Dalton experiment was going to be a wild ride, man. Like, we knew that this Andy Dalton experiment was going to be a wild ride. But that wild ride yesterday, to me, crashed and burned. Like, it crashed and absolutely burned. Okay? And you kick off the game. You're driving down the field. You already drive down the field, 3 minutes already, 4 minutes already taken off the clock. And you throw a interception on a screenplay. He might as well, and that's the thing. It was such a drive and momentum shift in that game to just start off the game like that. When I saw that in my mind, and now that I've kind of like slept on it and slept on this game, I should have known as a fan of this team that this game was over as soon as he threw that interception to Dante Fowler. He might, like I said, he should have just handed the ball to Dante Fowler and said, "Here you go, man. Take it to the house." Because that's what Fowler did exactly. And then in this game, it only spiraled down out of control for Dalton after that. It seems like we've got two quarterbacks that as soon as something bad happens, they are depleted, confidence-wise. This was a brutal, this is definitely the worst game he's had since joining this team. Like, I mean, again, you threw for a pathetic 93 yards and 2 interceptions. And you threw it on a screenplay that shifted the momentum of this game. First play, driving down the field. Because we were driving up to that point. If we go back and look at the play-by-play, we're 63 yards. We're 4 to, I think it was like 4 or 5 plays in. We already got 63 yards, already taken off like 3 minutes and 46 seconds on the clock, something like that. You would think that Dalton, as an experienced quarterback, might at least be somewhat of a game manager. But think again, he's been a turnover machine. He's averaging 150 passing yards over his last 3 starts with 2 meaningless touchdowns to 5 picks. That is not veteran leadership. That is straight up trash. So where do we look and say, is it Dalton? Or is it Dalton, or is it Canales' offense? Are the wide receivers not getting open? Are we having that issue again? Was it the offensive line not keeping him upright long enough? Like, where do we start pointing the fingers, man? Right? Like, you know. And then, so enough on that. Let's talk about the run game. All right, we got Chuba Hubbard. Okay? Chuba Hubbard. Yeah, you know what? Let's go back to this view. Fine, we can use this right here. Chuba Hubbard, right here. 17 carries, 52 yards, average 3.1, 1 touchdown. Chuba Hubbard came in this game with decent numbers, top 5 numbers, by the way, but Washington shut him down like he was a bad idea. Like, he finished this game with 52 meaningless rushing yards, 17 carries, garbage time touchdown. Miles Sanders barely put a dent in, but 3 carries for 34 yards and averaging 11.3. This was, I think, a Dave Canales issue again. You keep feeding Chuba, sure, but why not continue to give Miles Sanders more chances if he's averaging off of 3 carries, 11.3 yards? When do we start thinking that maybe Dave Canales is just like trying to figure this out on the fly as he goes? Because Carolina's run game was supposed to help take the pressure off your quarterbacks. But instead, it just limped along the game. Like, by halftime, we only had 55 rushing yards. That is what with Washington already, that put Washington already in cruise control. So final whopping numbers of 23 carries, 95 yards total on the day, 4.1 average, 1 yard, 1 touchdown. It's a joke, man. It's a joke. Chuba should be getting 20 to 25 carries, and Miles should be getting at least 5 to 10. Because again, we're down 7-0. I get that on that pick six, but why not go back out there on the field and try to drive with the run game? Again, when we get down, Dave Canales immediately starts going away from the run and starts getting aggressive at the worst times when we just need to try to put points on the board and get ourselves back into position into these games. But he continues to go away from those. That. Just doesn't make any sense to me, man. It just doesn't make any sense. The defense, let's go look at this defense real quick. Actually, we don't even need to look at the defense. Let's go look at the team stats. All right, we're going to go look at team stats. This will just tell you, actually, you know what? No, let's go back to the box score. All right, let's talk about this defense. Marcus Mariota, all right, because this is going to go along with the defense. Marcus Mariota, 18 for 23 yards. 205 18 for 23 attempts, 205 yards, average 8.9, 2 touchdowns, a sack, a QBR rating of a 64.7, and a rating of 132.8. Rushing, the total team altogether, 37 fucking carries. 214 yards, averaging 5.8 yards per carry. Jaden Daniels had a 46-yard run. It was like the first play of the game. Brian Robinson came back. Torched us. But look at the differential there. 37 carries. We were down 7-0 and we come out and just try to pass the ball, slinging it. Why? I get that. I just don't get it. Why do we, just because we're down by 7 points, we run away from the run game? Make it make fucking sense, Dave Canales. But this defense, Jesus, they were missing half their stars. I get we're missing half our starters, but even if everyone been healthy, they probably still would have gotten bulldozed. Like Washington ran all over us and piling up 214 rushing yards. You got rookie Jane Daniels picking up chunks of yards before he got injured. And even when Daniels went out, Marcus Mariota stepped up. Look at him. He's got 11 carries for 34 yards, man. And even when Daniels went, that's what I'm saying. Like, you got a backup quarterback completed 18 of 23, 205 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was like we were watching Marcus Mariota back in Oregon when he was unstoppable. And our defense looked lost, giving up penalty after penalty, letting Washington march up down the field without breaking a sweat. It's a god dang embarrassment, man. It's a god dang embarrassment, and and we don't deserve this as Panthers fans. But here's another thing. Here's the penalties. This is a team that is playing undisciplined football. They have penalties too, but 6 for 59 yards. So if we go back and look at every game, we've got to be one of the top teams in the NFL for penalties. It's the same old story. Undisciplined football. Sorry, I'm trying to get to some of y'all's chat. Oh, he wants out for sure. He wants out for sure. A lot of these guys want out. I mean, look at this interview here. Here, let's go back. I got a couple of interviews to show you from yesterday's locker room. Here's Chuba. Yeah, here's Chuba.
We want the game to go. obviously not the way we want the game to go. Just got to be able to, get in the game early on and stick there. And, some stuff happens, put out the fire. But it's unfortunate, but we're just going to keep working. That's the only thing we can do.
We're going to see how the guys going back to practice this week in terms of kind of responding mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every week we do a good job of practicing hard and showing up despite the outcome of the game. So we're just going to continue to trust the process and just keep moving forward. Obviously not the way we want the game to go.
And so that's something that, again, we just got to be honest about. Our Tell the Truth Monday, it just wasn't good enough, and that's true. And he knows that. And so that's something that, again, we just got to be honest about. Our Tell the Truth Monday.
No shit, he wasn't good enough.
I mean, frustrated, but I can't play every position on the field and make every play. You know what I'm saying? So everybody got to do their job when it comes down to it. So, but yeah, it's tough, but I just tell myself to keep moving regardless.
Then we got Damian Lewis down here saying trust the process. This is how bad it also is, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. Look at David Newton posted this up. The Panthers are allowing 34.7 points per game. That's on pace to be the second most points per game allowed in a single season in the Super Bowl era since 1966. Here's a list of the most PPGs allowed in the Super Bowl era. Giants in 1966 had 35.8. The Colts, 33.1. And then the Detroit Lions in 2020, 32.4. This is through 7 games. We allowed 34.7 points per game. No one's talking about Evero, but I sure as hell am going to be talking about him today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be talking about Evero cold-heartedly. I didn't even make a PowerPoint presentation for today because I'm tired of putting in the effort and for the lack of effort I'm seeing from this fucking team. So I'm just going to start using X and ESPN for my presentations. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'll still do them, but still. Just after this loss, I'm not doing it. I was not doing it today. Just wasn't. So, I mean, where do I start, man? I'm just getting started with this game. Jeez. I'm just getting started with this game. See if I need something else to want to go over here. The only bright spots on this team in yesterday, obviously, is Jadavion Sanders. I'll say that. Jadavion Sanders, 6 receptions, 61 yards, averaging 10 points, 10.2, 29 long, 6 targets, 6 for 6. Deontay Johnson, 1 for 3, 17. Jalen Coker, 1 for 1. Xavier Leggett, 2 for 3. I mean, again, the pass game was non-existent, man. I mean, you're going up against, again, here's some fun stats that we need to start off and talk about yesterday, too, that it was so surprising to me that our offense even couldn't get anything going against. And so listen to this. Before yesterday's game, so listen to this stat line yesterday. I'm going to give you a stat line before yesterday. Okay? Before yesterday, here's a fun stat line for you. Number 1, Washington's defense was depleted. By the way, Deron Payne, Josiah Newton, that's who was in there. Jonathan Allen was out. But here is the thing. The Commanders' defense is not that good as everybody made it out to be. We just made them look good yesterday because of how bad our team is. Because when we were going into this game, the Washington's defense was ranked 28th in DVOA and 29th in opponents' yards per play. They were also allowing quarterbacks to rack up a ridiculous 114.7 passer rating, which was the second worst in the league. And they also were giving up 8.1 yards per pass. And then in the last 3 games for the Commanders, they allowed an average of 153.7 rushing yards per contest. And you're telling me 89 yards passing, 85 yards passing, 89, whatever, 93 yards here, whatever it was, and 95 yards rushing, and you couldn't do that against a defense with those types of rankings and stat lines and numbers and injuries that they have? You couldn't get called up something else? You got out-coached. I'll be honest. Dave Canales got out-coached. There's no other way to put it. Again, he got out-coached. A rookie head coach got out-coached. Got out-coached. Simple as that. It's bad, man. It's just absolutely atrocious, man. Like, I'm not even gonna let's set besides the individual performances, because on the defensive side, like, this defense got flexed on like a bunch of high school kids in a weightlifting competition. Like, you'd think they spent the week prepping for a 2-hand touch game instead of figuring out how to stop a red zone read or containing a freaking quarterback. Missed tackle after missed tackle. Why the hell do we keep putting guys like Alex Cook, Mike Jackson on Terry McLaurin? Can someone make that make sense to me in the chat? It's like we're begging for disaster. And let's not even start with the tackling or the lack thereof. Like, every single guy besides J.C. Horn looks like they've never seen a tackle before. You'd think the front four's goal was to make Marcus Mariota look like he's got an MVP potential. It's infuriating because our pressure packages, complete failures, and the offense saw blitzes coming from a mile away. And honestly, the incompetency here is staggering at this point, man. You've got to wonder if Evero deserves to keep his job at the end of the season. But again, I mean, this offense too, though, bro. It's just pathetic. At the end of the day, this was another collective dumpster fire where the entire team played like an absolute nobody, and it feels like they just got through the motions. And honestly, it's painful to watch. I wish I could say something positive to you guys today, but I can't. At this point, I don't know. It's just a new low. Or it's just the same old shit. It's one or the other. But let's talk about this real quick. Is it time? Is it time to start Bryce Young? Is it time to start Bryce Young? And I'm going to wait for some of you guys in the chat. Marco says, nope, rather see Plummer. Dixon says it's time. Who cares? Here's the thing. This is the way I look at it. Either you start Bryce Young now. Okay? Because go ahead and just start him. Because let's be honest, things can't get worse. Bryce has been benched since week 3, but at a 1-6, what do we have to lose to giving the number 1 pick another shot? He flashed some promise in his limited play, and then at this point, Dalton's veteran leadership isn't worth the squat. I say get Young out there and let him take his lumps. But then you also got to think about the trade deadline. All right? Because here's the thing about Bryce Young. And this trade deadline coming up. I know the Panthers might be keep spewing some PR bullshit about him being their future, but come on, we're 18 games in and 2 wins into his career, and he already got benched. I think Dave Canales seems ready to move on, and honestly, who could blame him? Like, sure, the Panthers are a dumpster fire overall. Andy Dalton looked respectable at some points, but after this game, doesn't look like it. But for Young, is he out of time? The only way he salvages his career is if he gets shipped off somewhere else, maybe. I mean, the Tennessee Titans could be a team that comes in. Los Angeles Rams. Cleveland Browns. Look at Deshaun Watson. Miami. I just named you 4 teams at the trade deadline that could be calling for this kid. Will Levis, because, think about it for Tennessee. All right, I named you 4 teams. Titans, Rams, Dolphins, and the Browns. Okay? Will Levis had a promising start there in Tennessee, but he's not looking like the guy as the season drags on. That if the Titans want to take a flyer on another quarterback who hasn't exactly figured it out yet, maybe they give Young a shot. They could be coming knocking at their doors because they got guys like Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins out there. He at least has some serious weapons. Tyler Boyd as well. Got a decent running back room in Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard. It might be a mess, but I guarantee you Tennessee would say it would be worth a look. You think about it for the Rams. The Rams are floating in limbo mode. Stafford's getting older, and he's breaking down, and the team is struggling to get wins right now. Sean McVay, if he sticks around, he and actually believes in Bryce, could maybe get his groove back. Young needs a strong offensive mind to pull him out of his mess. Because I don't think Dave Canales is strong offensive minded enough. McVay could be the one to do that for him. If not, well, at least the Rams are used to chaos anyways. The Browns, Deshaun Watson's going nowhere with that ridiculous contract. Now he's got a torn Achilles. They're in deep shit with his contract. Jameis Winston, De'Aaron Thomas, Robinson. They aren't exactly thrilling options. Stefanski's still considered a top offensive coach, I think, despite the team being mediocre. You bring in a Young, that could be the Browns' Hail Mary. What do they have to lose at this point? I can see the Browns knocking at a door. But Miami, that's the most logical spot for Bryce if he decides to move on, or if we decide to move on. Tua is always one hit away from another season-ending injury. They're saying he's going to be back by week 8. I think the kid needs to just go ahead and say, hey, man, I'm done. I got to think about my life. If I'm Tua Tagovailoa, I got to think about my life after football. And Tyler Huntley is not doing any damn thing there. He got injured yesterday. Tim Boyle had to come in, right? Mike McDaniel's offense, I think Young would feel like if he got traded there, it's like it's like you get traded into a clunky Ford Focus for this like sleek ass Maserati. You trade in that old Ford Focus, you're able to get into a Maserati. That's what it is over there in Miami. They're the Maserati. We're Ford Focus. Because the Dolphins love speed and they got and creativity, and there's a lot of upside there, and everything Young does not have here in Carolina. This move could actually give him a fighting chance to turn his career around there. I think if Carolina's smart, and which is a big if, they'll call one of these teams and cut their losses before the trade value tanks in any further. And I'm not necessarily we're going to get a first round pick for him, much less a second or even a third. But I'm sure you could get some trade value out of him. Yeah, I know that, Chris. I said he tore his Achilles, not his ACL, I thought he tore his Achilles. I thought they said it was his Achilles. Was it not? Chris, I think he tore his Achilles. No, it's a torn Achilles. I just saw it. "45 minutes ago, they announced that it's a torn Achilles." Yeah, I know. So it's either you start Bryce Young now or you go ahead and you trade him. Same thing for Deontay Johnson, man. Like, Deontay Johnson doesn't want to be here. I mean, you can tell it in his face. It's the same thing with, like, here was Bryce yesterday.
Be able to.
And that stuff I can't control. I'm grateful for where I'm at. I'm grateful to be part of the Panthers, to be here in the Carolinas. I'm grateful for that. So yeah, that's how I feel. And obviously, again, stuff's out of my control.
You mentioned,
But then this is what they said yesterday on CBS.
The possibility of going back to Bryce Young. Why, and is the time now? Well, I don't know if I would do it right now at the half of the game like this. I give him a week worth of work.
And this was what Matt Ryan said.
Preparation wise is now taken off. You've made the switch. It hasn't really made a difference for your ball, for your team. And so to me, I kind of like don't throw him in there in this situation where you're already down. Give him a full week of prep, a full week of practice reps with the wide receivers. Give him a chance to be successful. The possibility of going back to Bryce Young.
So that's, Roundtable Sports made this for me. Appreciate that. Instead of it's got Marcus Mariota on it. So, I mean, I don't really have much recap on the game, but there are some topics that I want to talk about real quick before we get into this, get into any more stuff. We need to talk about David Tepper. Like, we need to talk about David Tepper. David Tepper. This is what we need. Here's the thing. I'm going to put this banner up. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. So the question is how much do we blame Tepper for this disaster? How much do we blame David Tepper for this disaster is the next topic I got to bring up. Because let's not dance around the issue. David Tepper deserves a mass chunk of the blame for the absolute disaster that we have become as an organization. Sure, everyone from the GM down to the water boy shares some responsibility here, but when the ship is sinking this fast, you have to look at the captain of the ship. He's been steering this thing straight into an iceberg ever since he walked through that door. Tepper's impatience is what has killed this team. He rolled into the town like he was going to be the NFL's next Jerry Jones. Billionaire, big ideas, flashy talk. Carolina fans thought we were getting some kind of savior. Instead, that we got was an impatient, trigger-happy, bald-headed, lemon drop head son of a bitch owner with zero football sense and a ton of fucking ego. Tepper has been quicker to pull the plug on just about everything, from coaches to quarterbacks. This guy, it's clear he doesn't have patience to build anything that lasts, ladies and gentlemen. And I see everybody's comments in the chat. Y'all going off right now. Appreciate you, everyone in here. Make sure you pound that like button, ladies and gentlemen. I greatly appreciate that. But let's talk about the coaching carousel for a second. Let's talk about this coaching carousel for a second. The man hired Matt Rule, gave him a ridiculous 7-year deal, then bailed on him halfway through his third season when it was obviously after year one that the guy was out of his depth. He's out of his depth in Nebraska. Did you see Nebraska get absolutely smoked with a wannabe Patrick Mahomes? Tepper sold fans on his 5-year plan like we were going to watch some magical rebuild unfold. Spoiler alert, it was a train wreck from the start. And then what does he do after Matt Rule? He brings in another head coach with no track record of success, no long-term vision, just another desperation attempt to stop the bleeding. So Tepper constantly continues to meddle within, and then has a lack of direction, have made it impossible for any coach to succeed here. There's no football here. There's no vision, just a lot of cash. Let's be real. David Tepper's business sense hasn't translated to football success. Just because you're rich as hell doesn't mean you know how to run a football team. Tepper's made his billions in hedge funds, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know that. Maybe that's part of the problem. He treats this Panthers team like one of his Wall Street investments, thinking that if he throws enough money at it, that he can fix the problem. Newsflash, you dumb fuck. The NFL doesn't work like that. You can't just buy your way to a winning culture, especially when you don't even know how to build one in the first place, David Tepper. You don't know how to build one. Chat, am I cooking right now? Am I cooking? Am I stirring the pot? Am I cooking right now about this? Sound off in the chat if Clay's cooking right now. Because Tepper clearly has no long-term vision. This roster construction is an absolute mess. The coaching hires have been questionable at best. We already are having our doubts about Dan Morgan and Dave Canales. And the draft picks. There was already doubts about Dan Morgan coming in because he was under Scott Fitterer. But we thought, no, it's just Tepper meddling with football operations, which we're going to talk more about Dan Morgan. Don't go anywhere because we're going to talk about Dan Morgan too. We're going to talk about Dan Morgan too. But tell me when I'm wrong, chat. Going through this. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tepper is more focused on turning a profit and looking like the big man in the room than actually setting up sustainability and winning franchises. Now, and I'm going back to what we've seen from Dave, and I know that right now, some people in this chat could say, well, Clay hasn't done anything lately. He hasn't meddled within football operation lately, or at least we're not hearing that from behind doors or behind closed doors. We don't know that. I mean, I'm not a reporter. I don't work there. I don't know what's going on in that building. I haven't heard anything about, him meddling within football operations. Okay. That doesn't mean he's not. Just because we're not hearing it doesn't mean that we're not, it's not happening. Tepper's hands-on approach has been the reason why we are where we are. David Tepper's the reason why where we are. Because of his hands-on approach. This guy needs to stay hell away from the football decisions, period. That approach has done us more harm than good. Now, again, yes, as of lately, we haven't heard anything. I understand that. But the best owners in the league, guys like Robert Kraft, or even the notoriously meddling some Jerry Jones, at least know when to step back and let the football people handle the football stuff. Tepper, on the other hand, seems to think he's a football genius. Picking draft picks. Picking players for his wife. Who I can't stand. I can't stand her. I don't know if I might can't stand her more than him. A woman should definitely not be involved in a man's sport. No offense. They don't know. They don't play the game. They never played the game. They're just basically they're just a fan that doesn't know shit. That's never played the game. She's nothing. She is nothing. Except an owner with a hand-on approach that shouldn't have a hand in it. Shouldn't even have a say. She should be making sandwiches or be at home or going to the golf course or going and get tennis lessons or something, but not being involved in football operations. She shouldn't even be there. You look at this QB situation. Tepper is reportedly the driving force behind the decision, obviously, that we know about drafting Bryce Young. Let's be honest, he was not ready for the pressure of being a franchise savior, being a terrible offensive line. Young was this sexy pick, maybe not the right one, but nobody wanted Bryce Young, at least from my understanding from a Panthers fan base. I feel like I've heard a lot more of AR-15 and CJ Stroud. But luckily enough, I actually think we made a better pick than AR-15. The way it's looking over there in Indianapolis, the guy can't stay healthy, and he's got a lower QBR rating than Bryce Young does. So it's hard to believe that we didn't make the worst decision, but it ain't the best decision. CJ Stroud obviously was the pick there. But it's hard to believe that a guy like David Tepper would tell them not to pick another guy over the other, and as an owner. But obviously it happened, right? But that left a team that has no identity, no leadership at quarterback, and no clue what the hell it's doing week to week. And I don't think the rest of the league isn't paying attention. Tepper's becoming known as the owner who can't get it right. It's getting harder to imagine quality coaches and front office talent wanting to come here, knowing they'll be working for an owner who can't seem to sit still long enough for a plan to develop. The Panthers are becoming a toxic job. That's on Tepper. Coaches want stability. Tepper has proven that stability is the last thing you'll find under his ownership. So how much do we blame David Tepper? A lot. He may not be responsible for missing tackles or throwing interceptions, but he's responsible for creating the environment where this kind of shit becomes the norm. Because this culture in Carolina is broken, and it starts with the owner. Until Tepper learns to step back, which it seems like he has as of late, we don't know how much longer that's going to last. Stop overreacting to every loss, but actually hire people who can build a winning team. This franchise is going to keep this circle going down the drain. The bottom line is Tepper is running this team like it's a new toy, and he doesn't quite know how to use it. Until that changes, I expect more of the same. Bad coaching hires, bad football, and a whole lot of pissed off fans. But again, I don't know how much longer the NFL is going to allow this to keep going on. I could see this being a Dan Snyder situation where the NFL runs Tepper out as the owner, which they can do. We've seen it happen before. And it's probably going to take that to get him out of the ownership. That's what it's going to take. We're going to talk about him next. So here's the next question I got for you, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, this is more of a statement. Actually, no, this is more of a question. This is more a question. Should you have your doubts about Dan Morgan? That's the next one. Because this is an elephant in the room, and this is a discussion that needs to be had. Because, he's our so-called general manager. So if you're not raising your eyebrow or two at this point, you're either blissfully ignorant or you're just in denial. And after all, What has he done to inspire confidence in you? Now, granted, I'm going to be a little bit lenient on Dan Morgan because he's just got into this position. Okay? There was a lot of narrative around Dan Morgan last year that he didn't really have much say before he got into this position. Now, I think Dan Morgan, can be a good GM. I think he comes from a great background where GMs have been successful in the Buffalo Bills, Seattle Seahawks, for example. There's definitely, he's had to have learned something over the years being in those organizations to where you can bring success to this franchise. But right now, it feels like he's driving this franchise after one off season. It feels like we've just are heading straight to a brick wall. So first off, let's get a refresher on who Dan Morgan is. This is a guy that was a solid linebacker in his playing days, made a decent name for himself as an assistant in the NFL. But let's be real and honest, being a good player doesn't automatically always translate to being a good GM or even coach. Like, the NFL is a cutthroat business. It's not about what you did on the field. It's about playing smart, decisions off of it. Like, since taking the reins, Morgan has been given the keys to this franchise. And he's treating them like a drunk driver on a joyride a little bit now that what we're seeing. You might remember his bold statements about building a competitive team, bringing those dogs in. But we fast forward to now, and what do we have to show for that? Where are those dogs at, Dan Morgan? Because right now, this is a dumpster fire of a roster that barely resembles an NFL team, man. This roster is a complete clown show. Because if we really want to dive into the real meat of the matter, the roster, Morgan's approach has been all over the damn place if we kind of think about it. He inherited this team with potential, but what has he done? He's taken that potential, to me, after this off season, is tore it down the drain. Really mainly on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive line solidified. I think the wide receiver room, I think, is good. I think it's fine. Chuba Hubbard, Brooks, Jadavion Sanders, those are all my guys. I like all those guys. But other than that, yeah, I think besides the only position on this team that's solidified, I feel, though, is the offensive line. But we've got guys filling in with unproven talent. You've got also some guys that are aging veterans. And you also got guys that injuries that make you wonder if training staff is doing more than harm than good. Right? We've got injured guys that are injured that this training staff is like, what do we start pointing the blame on this training staff too? You know, when do we start pointing at this training staff with all these injuries? Like, this is a team that's currently wallowing in a pit of mediocrity and disappointment. It's like, how the hell did we end up here? Because it's not just bad luck, it's bad management too. Like, Morgan's draft picks, this is his first year of technically being involved, I guess, and having the say and who to go after. Jonathan Brooks is yet make a start. Charles Smith-Wade looks like a wasted draft pick. Jaden Crometti is a practice squad player at best. You traded Michael Bennett to get Mike Jackson, which I think was an actually decent trade. I still believe in that. For a 7th-round pick to get Mike Jackson. I still think that was at least a decent trade still. He did do a decent trade in the draft to get us an extra draft pick the next year. So I'll say, getting us our 2nd-round pick back for next year. So kudos to him on that. All right. I got to give him some credit there. That's why I'm saying I'm going to be a little bit lenient on him But again, Morgan's draft pick, besides Jadavion Sanders, Xavier Legette, and Trevin Wallace, have been good. But you can't point at Bryce Young as your franchise cornerstone. That's a huge issue now. Even after 18 games, the kid still look lost, confused. Like he could use a map to find the end zone. Not to mention the complete lack of that people want to say we have lack of weapons, but I think there's plenty of offensive weapons to support him. But let's not talk about, but, you know, we have to think about Morgan also being responsible for bringing Dave Canales in. We also got to think about Dan Morgan being a part of bringing back Ejiro Evero. Because right now, Dave Canales, because we're going to talk about him next. You should have your doubts about him too. Because Canales right now's play calling is uninspired. Evero's defense looks more like a bunch of confused kids with than a professional unit. The thing is did Dan Morgan even consider the track records before hiring or bringing back Evero or hiring Dave Canales? It's hard to believe he did consider how badly this team has performed. The offense, the defensive schemes have been about as effective as a screen door on a submarine, ladies and gentlemen. It's Morgan's job to make sure that the coaching staff is capable of handling the talent or lack thereof on the field. Hold on, I'm turning down the air in here.
So without further ado, TD.
You know what I mean? So where do we go from here? I don't know. In conclusion to Dan Morgan, I'll say this. You should have your doubts about him. He's been given, you should have your doubts. I'm going to give him another season, obviously, or two. Probably. I'm a 3-year type of guy. I'll give you 3 years if you finally prove yourself, because I think in the NFL, for a head coach or a GM, you should give him at least 3 years to see if they can turn it around, see if they can bring in the quality talent, see if they can fix your cap space, see if they can bring in the talent, right? Can see if the coaching staff can develop. So I'm willing to give Morgan 2 more years after this one. But after that, and I don't see any improvement, got to go. But you should have your doubts. All right, appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Do me a favor, smash that like button. Let's get on to the next topic, man. Let's get on to the next topic. I don't know who that is, but all right. And you're probably right there, Chris. So Dave Canales was over his head day one. All right. If you're not I think you should have your doubts about Dave Canales too. I'm willing to give him 3 years, like I said with Dan Morgan, but there are some doubts that you should have. These guys are just part of the problem right now. They're not the whole problem, but they're part of it. This guy, Dave Canales, was supposed to be this mastermind behind this whole, this is the guy that's supposed to be this offensive genius that's going to fix your franchise quarterback, that is going to develop him into the guy that you want him to be, right? He came in with a lot of hype because he was talking about his offensive philosophy, player development, how he turned the Panthers into a competitive team. But what we've actually seen is a shit show of epic proportions. Again, this offense looks like it's cobbled together in a high school football playbook. Canales has been constantly outcoached every week. He talks a big game, but his offensive schemes are more predictable and vanilla and lifeless. Maybe more than what I've seen from Frank Reich. And it's like he doesn't even understand what his own players are capable of. Like, that's the issue that I'm seeing right now. Bryce Young looked lost when he was out there instead of playing to his strengths. Canales had him running plays that made zero sense to me. And now with Andy Dalton back at the helm, the offense is still a disaster. Just a slightly less embarrassing one. Canales doesn't seem to understand basic in-game adjustments either. Game after game, we're watching him get completely outmaneuvered in the second half. And it's like he goes into the locker room at halftime, scribbles a couple of new plays on a napkin and hopes for the best. And it's just not working right now. The question I have for Dave Canales is Dave Canales a leader of men? Because a leader of men is more about than just play calling X's and O's. It's about instilling a sense of direction and holding accountability. Like, the Panthers look like a team with neither right now. The players, to me, seem checked out. Like, they know the guy calling the shots doesn't have a damn clue what he's doing. Like, Canales has failed to get buy-in from this roster, and it shows on the field every week. And again, when you don't get me even started on his in-game decisions. Like, the man can't manage a game to save his life. He's been horrible on clock management, questionable fourth down calls, and complete inability to read the momentum of the game. This is basic stuff. And Canales is failing miserably. What grinds my gears the most with him is when he does start actually having really good play calling, and we're starting to see these two back sets, and we're starting to see a couple trick plays here and there. And but of course our team can't execute some of these trick plays that actually seem that could work. That's undisciplined football. And it's also lack of execution on our players' end too. So yeah, I got to point the blame at the players too. But then why go away from things that work? That's the biggest thing I see from Canales, is that when things do work, he tries to go and get too, I guess the word is too, or he just tries to do too much, right? But the thing that also upsets me is, especially in the run game, is we were going to be a run-heavy offense by Dave Canales, and we haven't been. At least enough for me. But we look at this roster, man. The Panthers are a team that look like a team with no depth, no star power, no clear direction. Right? I think the Panthers just need to hit the reset button from the top to bottom. I honestly do. Because that starts with getting rid of guys. And the longer Tepper waits, the more this team will continue to spiral. That's the same thing. But it also, we got to talk about Evero, ladies and gentlemen. We also got to talk about Evero. Look at this. Here's my next one. Evero should be fired. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. You have to. We have to stop. We've been holding off on fully blaming him after watching this mess week after week, and it's clear his game plan is garbage. It's time to start calling it like it is. Stop giving this guy leeway. You give everybody else leeway. You Panthers fans give Bryce Young leeway. You give players leeway. You give some of the coaching staff leeway. But when do we stop giving Evero leeway? When do we stop giving leeway really in general? When do we should just start blaming everybody? Because this is a absolute dumpster fire and all parties are involved. Evero's scheme is a disaster wrapped in confusion. Because what the hell is this defense even trying to do when I watch them play? Evero came in. He had this shiny resume, hype all around him, defensive mastermind, and he's supposed to be running this dynamic, aggressive defense under him. And instead, we've gotten is confusion, disjointed mess that couldn't stop a high school team right now. And he's sticking with these schemes that aren't clearly working. Here's for example, his insistence on running soft zone coverages. It's basically an invasion. It's an invitation for opposing quarterbacks to have career days against Carolina. Look what Marcus Mariota did yesterday. Quarterbacks are picking us apart. We're serving them free appetizers. Where's the pressure? Where is it? Where is the pressure? Where's this bend, don't break approach that Evero loves? Newsflash, it's fucking broken, ladies and gentlemen. We're bending, we're breaking, we're shattered in a million pieces every single week. There's zero adjustments like every game. Why is J.C. Horn not on the best wide receiver on the field every single play? That's the only, you can move him around if you want to, but on key plays, he should be on Terry McLaurin. He should be on Drake London or Darnell Mooney. He should be on Jamar Chase. He should be on Devontae Adams. He should be on Quentin Johnson. He should be on Chris Olave. Why are our linebackers going up against Drake London one-on-one? Mike Jackson was getting cooked by Terry McLaurin yesterday. Absolutely cooked, if you didn't notice. Look, football is all about adjustments, ladies and gentlemen. So if your game plan isn't working, you shift, you adapt, you change things up. That's the difference between a good defensive coordinator and a bad defensive coordinator. Even with the personnel that you do have, you're able to have some success based off the adjustments that you make as a DC. But this is but the lack of adjustments and the lack of it's either lack of knowledge to the adjustments or it's just stubbornness and pride that's getting ahead of Evero. That's a good way to get your ass fired. That's a good way to never have a NFL head coaching job. But here's the thing. Evero, it's like he's allergic to make any kind of adjustments, though. We've watched teams march down the field, drive after drive, and what does Evero do? He keeps trotting out the same shitty play calls, expecting different results. Teams have figured us out. Evero doesn't realize or doesn't care. It's as if he's locked into this scheme like he's in a damn video game, refusing to press, pause, and rework the strategy. He's got players on defense chasing their own tails while the offense carves them out like it's Thanksgiving turkey. Injuries aren't an excuse, ladies and gentlemen. They can't be an excuse anymore. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Injuries. Yes, the Panthers have been hit hard, especially in defense. You've lost key players, and sure, that's tough. But guess what? Every NFL team deals with injuries. Washington, for example, has plenty of them on the defensive side. Great coaches adjust. They figure out how to get most of the next man up. And Evero, on the other hand, seems to have thrown his hands in the air and given up. A good defensive coordinator would adapt to the personnel he has, and instead, Evero is running the same schemes with backups that he is with starters. And shocker, it's not working. But we want to sit here and say, well, it's the personnel. It's the injuries. Again, every team in the NFL deals with injuries, bro. Great adjustments. Great coaches adjust. They figure out how to get the most out of the next man up. They're able to adapt that personnel that they do have and make the scheme work. So when do we stop? When do we stop just using this the injury excuse, bro? I just want people to make that make sense to me. You know? Like, the defensive line, yes, is a joke. Like, what I mean, what the hell? I mean, this unit should be, I wouldn't say it's a strength, but my God, it's like playing a bunch of overpaid traffic cones. Like, Evero's scheme has them out of position constantly. They're getting gashed on the ground. They're offering up zero pass rush. We've got talent. Like, Evero's brilliant plan has turned them into a non-factor. Because opposing quarterbacks are able to stand in the pocket, ladies and gentlemen, with all the time in the world, making a sandwich, and then throwing darts downfield because nobody's even getting close to them. I appreciate that, Jeff R. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. I really do. So we got to stop giving this guy a pass, man. For weeks, the narrative has been that Evero just needs time, or that the injuries are too much to overcome, or the offense is putting the defense in bad spots. Let's cut the crap. Evero has been just as bad, if not worse, than anyone else on this coaching staff. He's not some untouchable genius getting caught in a bad situation. He is a big part of the bad situation. Thank you, QP88. Thank you, Domo Smith. Thank you. This defense is historically bad, and at some point, you have to start looking at the guy calling the shots. And we've been giving him a pass, but Evero doesn't deserve one anymore. The defense is broken, and it's clear that Evero's not going to be the one to fix it. We can sit around and wait for him to suddenly figure this out, or we can start facing reality. He's not the guy. It's a perfect example. Like yesterday, Dan Quinn used Frankie Louvu the correct way. He's using him as a Micah Parsons role. Perfect example of a good defensive minded coach. Jeremy Chin is in the right position on the field for Washington. But when those guys were here, we had Frankie Louvu in the middle, playing middle linebacker. Yeah, Jeremy Chin was non-existent. They were trying to make him as a hybrid role, but when he was so successful with Phil Snow's defense and the safety position. And then you've got Brian Burns, who was dropping back into coverage as an outside linebacker or an edge rusher, which is what he is. Brian Burns is a better player when he's got 3 fingers in the ground. That you've got guys playing out of their comfort zone and out of position just to fit your scheme that doesn't fucking work. Same thing against Atlanta. You've got guys one-on-one with Drake. You got linebackers going one-on-one with Drake London. And you continue to keep J.C. Horn on one side of the field. When do we start blaming this guy, man? He's not the guy. His scheme isn't working. His lack of adjustments is alarming, ladies and gentlemen. Because the results we're getting are a fucking disaster. And again, I'm going to tell you this once. I'm going to tell you this twice. Every team in the NFL deals with injuries. Great coaches are able to adjust and figure out how to get the most out of the next man up. And Evero, on the other hand, seems to have thrown his hands in the air and given up. Again, a good defensive coordinator would adapt to the personnel he has and would still have some kind of success. I think if the Panthers are serious about getting better, they need to start looking for someone who can actually coach a defense that works. I know a guy that just got fired out of New Jersey. Well, New Jersey, New York, same fucking thing. Just got fired out of New York. Either way, we're seeing right now it's not acceptable. If he can't adapt, then he's got to be shown the door, plain and simple. Sean, we didn't let Louvu walk. We let Chin walk, but we didn't let Louvu walk. We actually offered him more money. I hate when people say that we let Louvu walk. We actually offered him more money than Washington did. He just chose to go play for Dan Quinn because he wasn't going to play out of position because of Evero. That's why Louvu walked, ladies and gentlemen. Louvu walked because Ejiro Evero was playing him out of position. That's why Louvu walked. Not because that we let him. We offered him more money. He walked because he didn't want to play for Ejiro Evero because he was playing him out of position. Plain and simple. And Louvu knew that if he would go play for Dan Quinn, he would have a better chance of putting up a better stat line and actually play in the right position that he's supposed to be in. That's why you're seeing Chin do well in Washington as well. Another perfect example. Again, also Evero was having Brian Burns, a guy who's supposed to have his hands in the dirt, coming off the edge. Or not coming off the edge, but dropping back in coverage. So make it make fucking sense to me. We got Trevin Wallace going one-on-one with Drake London. That's what I'm just saying, man. When do we just stop blaming? When do we stop just blaming players, personnel, and injuries when we got to look at the coaching staff and the scheme? That's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, when do we stop it? So I guess the next question I should ask you guys then is, I guess the next question I have to ask you is where, this is the next question I got to ask you. You guys. This is the next question I got to ask you guys. Actually, I'll edit that out. Okay. So here's the next question. Jeez, why did that take so long? Where the fuck did we go from here? Based off of everything we just talked about, Tepper, the recap of the game, David Tepper, Dave Canales, Dan Morgan, Ejiro Evero, Andy Dalton, Bryce Young, Deontay Johnson, Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, Jadeveon Clowney, J.C. Horn. But guys, here's the thing, guys. I'm telling you right now, it will tell me how serious this team is about fixing the problems of this team and rebuilding this team the right way at the trade deadline. Because if we're not active at the trade deadline, that means that they're telling me that we're really, I don't think they're really that serious. I think that you have to look at trading Deontay Johnson at this point. I think you have to look at trading Adam Thielen at this point. I think you got to look at trading Jadeveon Clowney. I think you got to look at trading J.C. Horn. I think you've got to look at trading Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. That's 6 guys. You've already got 9 draft picks this year. I think you've got to look at the trade value of these guys, the guys that have value on this team, look at their trade value and look at their market value and see what you can get. Because if I'm Carolina, if you want to rebuild this the right way, I think you got to strip it all the way down. I think you got to do a complete overhaul, like a true complete overhaul. Of course, you're going to keep Derrick Brown because you just extended him, because you can't trade him. I mean, you can, but you're just going to take a massive dead cap. I mean, you could take a massive dead cap hit, which I don't think we need to take any more of. Honestly, I'm looking. You got to look at what you can do value-wise to help yourself with the cap space. So they either need to trade or cut guys to help with the cap space to bring in some actual true free agents if they can get them here. And then you need to add on to that 9 picks that you have in the draft capital right now. You need to at least add 3 more. I would say you need to add at least 3 more draft picks to this year's draft class. But, all right, so where do we go from here? Well, let's start with the quarterback conundrum first, ladies and gentlemen. The quarterback conundrum. Bryce Young or nah? Let's start with the elephant in the room. Right? He was supposed to be our future, number 1 overall pick. He's supposed to lead this franchise to the next decade, but so far he looks like a lost kid on the field. His confidence is shot. The offensive line can't, at the time, couldn't protect that, but now they can. The coaches, Dave Canales, I don't think has any idea what to do with him. Do you bench him for the rest of the season to protect his fragile ego, or do you keep trotting him out there, or I mean, not keep trotting him out there? Do you finally just let him start again? Do you just go ahead and start him, see what you got, because you have nothing else to lose at this point? Because neither option really feels good with Dalton or him. I mean, Dalton's just a serviceable quarterback at this point. So the quarterback, we're screwed. Right? Now, I honestly think that they should trade him. Bryce, you keep Dalton, obviously, for the rest of the year. But I think you try to trade Bryce. If someone comes to that door knocking, like I said, those 4 teams, like Titans who need a quarterback, the Rams need a quarterback, the Browns now need a quarterback, the Dolphins need a quarterback. If any of those teams come knocking with at least a 4th-round pick, I say you take it. I feel like this is a Josh Rosen 2.0 situation all over again. Let's talk about Dave Canales for a minute, his play calling. It's been mediocre at best right now. Raiders with O'Connell injured. Yeah, maybe. But week after week, it feels like we're playing checkers while everyone else is playing chess. I feel like Dave Canales does try to get creative. But some of his stuff is very predictable too. Because it seems like defenses can come see it coming from a mile away. Because the results speak for itself. Evero has been a joke. There's no pressure on opposing quarterbacks. There's no adjustments when things go south. At some point, you've got to ask, why are these guys still here? Especially like a Evero. And I'm wondering, does Tepper have any of these guys on a short leash? Because we're just watching the ship sink from a fan standpoint. So let's not forget Dan Morgan, the GM, who supposedly knows what he's doing, if this is the roster of his idea for building for the future, I think someone needs to wake his ass up and tell him that this ain't it. Because this team is thin in all the wrong places. There's no depth, and the talent we do have is either injured or it's underperforming. This defense was supposed to be the backbone of this team, right? Which it has been. That was our bright spot last year. But every week, opposing offenses are treating our defense like a damn doormat. Again, there's no pressure on the quarterback. The secondary has lack of communication, getting roasted, missing tackles. How many times do we have to watch this defense fail to make basic stops? Again, Evero's scheme is laughable. The lack of adjustments is alarming. And it's not just coaching, it's the players too. But also, we can't sit here and continue to blame injuries when we know the next man up is that mentality, and the great DCs are able to make the right adjustments for the personnel to have some type of success. But yet again, we're seeing Evero not do that. But at some you have to at some point you have to suck it up and at least try to play like professionals. Because right now it's embarrassing, and there's no way to put it. Tepper problem. Is it all his fault? I mean, his decision making has been suspect from the start. He hires the wrong people. He gives them too much of a leash, and when it's time to pull the trigger and clean house, he hesitates. This team has been a joke ever since he took over, and now we're seeing the culmination of that dysfunction. You can blame the players and the coaches all you want, but the fish rots from the head down. And Tepper's got to own a big part of this mess. If he doesn't start making some smart decisions here soon, we're going to be stuck in the hellhole for a long time. Guys, we got 26 people watching. Make sure you pound that like button. I greatly appreciate it. We've got 57 votes, but only 20 likes on the poll. Like, we got 57 polls hit with an answer, but none of you hit that like button. The other 57 out of the 20. So the other 37 of you didn't hit the like button, but you definitely hit the poll button, 57 votes. Pound that like button, man. Got 57 votes, but only 21 likes. Make it make sense to me. If you can hit the poll question, you can hit the like button. So what's next? Here's the real kicker. It's gonna suck. There's no easy fix. We're not one draft away from competing. Hell, we're not even a couple trades away. This is going to be a long, painful rebuild. It's going to take a lot more than what we've got right now to get out of this hole. I say option one. You got option one. And I'm just giving you an option one. Option one is this. You blow it all up. You fire Canales. You fire Evero. You fire Dan Morgan. Start from scratch with a whole new coaching staff. And you find one that actually has a clue. Tepper needs to hire a real football mind to help make decisions, because clearly he can't do it. Right? Option two, you ride it out. Continue to hope things improve. Right? And you continue with Dan Morgan, Dave Canales, and those guys, and you fire Evero. I still believe in firing Evero should be option in this, no matter what. I'm willing to give Dan Morgan and Dave Canales 3 years. Evero, I've seen enough. He's been here long enough, and he's been here longer than both of those guys. And then option 3, another option is you pray Bryce Young figures it out, draft some serious talent, somehow pull off a miracle. But honestly, that's wishful thinking. We've got to hold on to something, right? No? I say this. I say you ride it out with Dan Morgan for at least 2 more years now, because this is year 1. Same thing with Dave Canales. You replace the Giro Evero with a scheme that better fits this defense. You let Dave Canales actually get his quarterback, right, that he wants. You let Dave Canales get the quarterback that he wants, the one that he wants to get, the one he wants to draft, the one that he truly believes in, and one that he can work with. Whether you draft, and I'd rather it not be this draft, but if he truly believes that he's got a guy there like Drew Allard or Cam Ward or Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, whoever it is, Shador Sanders, even though I don't want Beck, Ewers, Sanders, any of them, I want there's only 3 guys I would pick in this draft. And they're all long shots, honestly. I feel like maybe besides Drew Allard. I think Drew Allard's a guy that could be, he's a 6'5", 230, 40-pound quarterback. I think he's actually bigger than that. He might be 250. I could be wrong on that. I think he's 230. Big arm, accurate. So if you want to go after anybody, I like Drew Allard. But again, I just think that they need to be aggressive at this trade deadline, I think. I think you need to look at the market and trade value for some current players that you do have. See if it's worth extending them or worth trading them based off the cap or based off the trade value. And you go into the draft and you rebuild it that way. There's multitude of options, and who knows? There might not even there. I don't know what's right from wrong anymore. That's the crazy part. I don't even know what's right from wrong anymore, ladies and gentlemen. It's like, do I trade away Deontay Johnson? Do I trade away guys like Chuba Hubbard, who have been the bright spot on this team? It's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to say. It's hard to say, ladies and gentlemen. So where do we go from here? I'll tell you this. I'm going to keep pounding. I'm going to keep being here. I'm going to continue to bring you my content. I'm going to continue to give you my thoughts. But what the Carolina Panthers need to do is they need to figure this out and figure this out fast. And I think they need to be aggressive at the trade deadline. I think they need to look at these guys and be like, how much can we get out of them? How much draft capital can we get out of them? And when we get a top 5 pick or even the first overall pick, we need to look and trading that draft pick back and getting more draft capital. Carolina has to be smart because right now this is going to continue to be a vicious cycle that we're on. We're just a hamster on a wheel that just we're like a hamster on a wheel that just keeps turning, but we're going nowhere. It's the same cycle. Because that's what this is. It's the same cycle. I appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Do me a favor. Smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you click that post notifications bell. I'm done ranting for the day. I gave you my thoughts. I gave you the recap. I mean, I gave you my thoughts on on this whole organization from top to bottom. This is just where we are, man. We're a complete embarrassment. And this is not going to be an overnight fix. So I appreciate everyone joining the live stream again. Make sure you like, subscribe. Make sure you click that post notifications bell so you don't miss out on new content. I greatly appreciate it. I'm still going to be here, still going to bring y'all content, still going to be live, still going to be bringing you shorts. So definitely we're going to continue to keep grinding for you guys. So appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Again, do me a favor, smash the like, hit that subscribe button, click that post notifications bell. Also, feel free to leave a comment anytime. Also, feel free to share the live. That also goes a long way. Also, check me out on all my social media. I'm very active on there. Also, feel free to join the Discord. The Discord is free. You can come in there and hang out, and we can discuss and debate. There's all kinds of NFL topics that we're always talking in there. Also, shout out to BetUS, our sponsorship of today's live stream. And guys, also, don't forget NFC South Roundtable tomorrow night, 7 p.m. EST. Again,
Roundtable Sports Network brings you NFL divisional debate coverage on a weekly basis from your favorite content creators across YouTube, featuring the AFC East Roundtable live Monday and Wednesday evenings, the AFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST, the NFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST, the NFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST, the AFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST, the NFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST, the AFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST, the NFC East Roundtable live Thursdays at 6 p.m. EST. Roundtable Sports, real coverage from real fans.
yeah, so shout out to Roundtable Sports. Make sure you tune in 7 p.m. EST tomorrow night. So I'll be on there, of course, with Mr. Bucks Nation of the Tampa Bay Bucks, Smitty Machine of the Atlanta Falcons, and then, of course, TJ from the State of the Saints podcast. So go check those guys out as well. Make sure you go like and subscribe to their channels. Course, as always, guys, love you guys. Have a great rest of your Monday. Have a blessed Monday. Enjoy the rest of your day, and as always, guys, y'all know what to do. Keep pounding. Peace.